guess I had to see it to believe it. 'Cause I don't matter in the big picture.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Drawing Room Experts with me, Zaib, and this is another edition of the Premier League Roundup that I'm doing until the end of the season. I think it's no surprise that I follow the Premier League very in a lot of detail, and it's a part of my life and something that I touched upon in our episode with Awais Thayer a few weeks back. That it's a huge gap in our lives when it's not happening, especially in off season, right? So while the season is on and there's so much happening in the league, literally every other day there's a game, and it's hard keeping track. Like I said in the last Premier League round of episode, it's hard to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I'm gonna review and talk about the results so far, this weekend or this match week or match day, right? But because इतना disparate तरीके से games चल रहे हैं, it's very hard to really draw a line and say, okay, I'm going to review. But I'm trying to do this on a weekly basis, like let's say every Wednesday release an episode about everything that has happened so far. And obviously I'm not like going to talk through each and every game, but it's nice to just look through results and see which one popped out and which one really needs me to really talk about a little bit more. So I'm literally, I have the results listed from the last time we talked, and what I'm gonna go through, what I'm gonna do is just basically go through them and give my thoughts on them, and at the end of the episode I'm gonna give an opinion on how that impacts the table, if it does in any shape or form. But yeah, it's fantastic. The games are now, I feel like उसमें थोड़ा सा momentum pick up हुआ है, and I see like a lot of teams playing to their full potential, and एक पूरा एक वो जो intensity होती है Premier League की, obviously minus the fans, so that intensity is kind of coming back, and it's really looking like the Premier League of old. I mean, without the fans, honestly, atmosphere, it's very difficult, in my opinion. And I was just speaking to a friend the other day, and mentioning कि यार fans के ना होने से बड़ा एक adverse impact in my opinion, like viewing के हिसाब से बड़ा adverse impact रहा है. Because atmosphere, even though you're not in the ground, but that atmosphere that the fans created in stadiums really used to get through to the folks watching at home, like myself. So with that not being the case anymore, it becomes very difficult to watch these games just for what they are, and it's hard to stay focused in these games, at least from a viewer perspective, because you feel like this is, you see empty stands. Although like I like the fact every stadium, I've pretty much seen all of this stadium so far in one shape or form post the Premier League returning. And what I really like is they've pretty much covered the stands, and उसमें they put in like banners, and fans ने अपने pictures लगाई हुई हैं वहाँ पे. So it's nice that they're doing that, because it's really disheartening to see empty chairs, right? तो वो एक और वो impact होता है. तो obviously at least you can't see the empty chair, but you see the atmosphere is not the same, even though NBC is kind of doing their thing with trying to create the fake atmosphere for the live games, although to their credit, they haven't overdone it. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई like it's like fucking noise of thousands of people. They've just like created enough कि आपको ऐसा ना लगे कि it's like a fucking empty room, which it almost is, right? So yeah, I was just speaking to a friend and said, okay, I hope the Premier League clubs, after this whole fiasco is done and fans are allowed to come back into the stadiums, realize how much of a blessing, fans are to the sport. We can have you fucking Messis and Ronaldos of this world playing on the field, but if it's just a bunch of stewards watching from the stands, or like managers clapping here and there, it just doesn't feel the same, no matter how great of a player that you have on the field. So while I say that people on the field make the games interesting, but the people in the stands make it complete. So hopefully at least the Premier League clubs realize that they need to make sure that they account for that, and give the fans an experience that they deserve. And I speak this from a perspective of there's been a lot of conversation and back and forth around the ticket pricing in the Premier League, and especially the clubs in London, all across England. Actually, the ticket prices are insane for your average fan, and what happens is that it really takes it away, right? So you're milking your money from them, although granted that most of the clubs earn from sponsorships and all of that stuff, but still, you need fans to show up every week in, week out. So they shouldn't be paying through the nose to watch fucking Wigan play away to Bournemouth or something like that, right? Which they do, unfortunately. So hopefully the clubs can come together. They realize give them fans की importance बहुत है, and once fans are allowed to come back, they feel like, okay, you know what, now we need to make sure that this relationship between us and the fans, this is be something that we build upon and don't take for granted. Anyway, the last time when I recorded the episode, the Brighton versus United game was still going on, and I mentioned, I think in the last episode, that United were like 3-0 up right after half time or something like that, and that's how it finished. And United, like I said, has been going strength to strength ever since they came back from this break, and they've been looking really good. Some of the players that really have been shining, I would say, is Bruno Fernandes and Wan-Bissaka, who was doing pretty decently prior to the COVID break as well, but he's looking pretty good on the right. And then you have the likes of Mason Greenwood. He's scoring a bunch of goals now, and he looks pretty sharp, and he's pretty young, and for that age, a player for that age, he's looking very I would say established in the side. So that's good for the United fans, and good for the league as well, because you need the likes of United to really pop up and shine at the big stage and really become a big club that they are. So they won that game last week, and we moved on to Wednesday, and couple of really, really shocking results. First being the Arsenal thumping of Norwich. So Arsenal finally win their games. They've been like awful even before the break, and after the Premier League resumed, it seemed like nothing has clicked at all, right? So everything has been going against them. They have a rookie manager in the side in Arteta, and he got the COVID, I think, right when the Premier League stopped. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So they had that issue, and then obviously when they came back, you were assuming that maybe the break is probably going to do them good, and they start where they left off, unfortunately for their fans. And but it was a shocker. I mean, although it was expected that they would beat Norwich, but for them to win 4-0 is pretty good for them. I think it's not going to really help them with their top four ambitions. I think their goal from now until the end of the season should be just to focus on finishing as high as possible. One player that I really like from that team, Arsenal, is this new left winger or left midfielder or left forward, Sako or Saka. Let me check. Is it Sako? I think it's Sako. Bukayo Saka. Actually, Saka. Bukayo Saka is a fantastic 18-year-old. I watched him a few times pre-COVID, and and he looked really, really good. And he has started, the post break um, games, and he's looked pretty well. He's scoring as well, so I hope that stays. I think Arsenal really need some exciting players up front to click for them to be more of an exciting prospect as opposed to just being a dull team with average has-beens, right? And the other shocker from Wednesday last week was the shocking defeat for Chelsea against West Ham. I mentioned in my last episode, there should be a sure win for Chelsea, and that kind of gives you an idea why they are where they are, because they have done pretty well this season, but they've lacked right at the edge where they really could have won this game and had some some distance between them and the fifth spot. But that's how the chase for the Champions League spot has been. Every team has been dropping points left and right in unexpected positions. So with Chelsea losing that game, that really opened the race like wide open, at least for United and I would say Wolves probably, who are the closest. I still feel Arsenal and Spurs, they have a long way to go before they can really be part of that same conversation. But I would still think it's United, Chelsea, Wolves probably, and Sheffield that are probably closer to that top four spot. And with Leicester losing as well a bunch of times, a couple of times since the start of the season, like the resumption of the season, that has also opened the third position, which for the longest time this season was locked by the likes of Leicester or even Man City at a point. So with those two spots potentially, like one spot for sure and two potentially opening up, that that may feel like that may feel like that some of these clubs may have an opportunity to get in. But yeah, that loss to West Ham was really poor. I watched the game and they were just horrible. And West Ham, to their credit, that was a huge win for them to really lift them up from the bottom three or close to the bottom three that they were. And in the same week, obviously Leicester lost to Everton at home, so Everton away, which was another bad result for Brendan Rodgers. Come Thursday, so Thursday was a bad day for me. So Liverpool, as I mentioned, they won the championship last week when Man City lost to Chelsea away, and it was party, and everything was happy-go-lucky for our team. Our players were enjoying. You saw video clips all over the internet of fans and players. They're having fun, partying all night and stuff. And I think that kind of got to them when they showed up for this game against Man City, because they were just awful, to be honest. I mean, I watched the game as a Liverpool fan. I was like watching the game very closely, and I thought there were some. I mean, what I'll say is, first of all, the scoreline, it kind of flatters Man City, and not to suggest that they weren't as good as the scoreline suggests they were, but it wasn't a 4-0 game, because when you see 4-0 you feel like it was a total annihilation, but it wasn't as simple as that, I would say. A lot of the Man City goals were from the break, so they were like amazing on the break, Man City. And on the break, on the counter attack, you create some good opportunities, but it feel like as whenever they had the opportunity to break, they were kind of like almost in a position to make that count, and they did for at least a couple of goals I can remember. And Liverpool, on the other hand, were just wasteful. And then तभी मैंने last episode में बोला था, I think we need a creative midfielder to really click when things are not going our way. I like the three midfielders that we have in Hendo, Fabinho, Genie / Milner / Ox, but I think you need you need like a Coutinho-esque player in that mold that can really click and make things happen. I'm hearing a lot of talks around Thiago Alcantara from Bayern. I hope I pronounced his name right. Um, he might be interested in a move to Liverpool. I think he's already stated that he's not going to renew his contract at Bayern. So a lot of newspapers, at least, are mentioning that he might be in for that gig. But still, I'm not sure if Thiago is the right answer. I think he's a good midfielder and would love to have him. But I think we need someone like a good Coutinho or number 10 that even if we bring him off the bench in games where we're not really creating things, I think that's why we need someone, because I think we had a few good chances. I think Mane missed a really good one. Mo Salah hit the post in the first half, and yeah, we were just wasteful, and we just looked. I mean, it just felt that we didn't care, and I don't want to hide behind that too much. But I also don't want to read too much into that performance. Liverpool are still the better side. They're better side by a country mile above everybody else in the league, and that one result doesn't change the fact. Going on to the Spurs game the same day, they lost 3-1 to Sheffield United. Again, VAR was in the middle of the discussion, the center of discussion in terms of controversies, and I think I'll do another like a proper episode on this whole experiment of VAR that has gone that was part of this Premier League season, and how did it really went, and was that really helpful to the game or not. I mean, there's so many things that went right, but then also a lot of things that went wrong for the use of technology in the game, and I think we'll probably do a separate episode on that. But Spurs losing away to Sheffield, yeah, I still think Spurs are lacking some number one. They lack a number one striker in addition to Kane. I don't think Kane might end up staying anyway, but they need a definite good number 9 next season. They need a really good midfielder as well. I think that can help, and they definitely need defenders. I think the way results have been going for them, they've been leaking goals unnecessarily, so they definitely need a defender there. And that it was a must-win game for Spurs for them to stay alive in the top 4 race, especially after Chelsea losing. But unfortunately for them and Jose, they couldn't make it happen. Moving on to the games on Saturday, I'm looking at the results. I think Arsenal's away win at Wolves. Again, very good result for them and surprising. I think to win away to Wolves is not easy at all. I think we found that out when we lost there too. So good on them, and Chelsea getting back into the scoring sheet and winning that game against Watford at home was also needed, because I think United, when they beat Bournemouth 5-2, which was another high scoring, very good game, but their defense, Man United defense, I watched the game highlights and it was just awful. I mean, De Gea, for all his greatness, and I'm starting to believe what Roy Keane said the other day, that De Gea might be the most overrated goalkeeper in the world. I'm starting to believe that he might be right, because he was awful again for that first goal at least, and the way Harry Maguire was, megged, right before the first goal. It was just embarrassing. I mean, for people to really compare him with Van Dijk, it's embarrassing. They should be embarrassed of themselves. That guy's nowhere near Van Dijk, even though he's probably a little more expensive than him in terms of transfer value. But Harry Maguire, he's a good defender, but he's not a Van Dijk. He's nowhere near a Van Dijk. But that Exhibit A was that first goal that Bournemouth scored. But yeah, at the end of the day, United won. Bruno scoring a couple of goals too, I think. Actually scoring one, and then I think Mason Greenwood scored 2. That kind of made things interesting for them because they're looking really good. I think when they won that game, they briefly went into fourth spot before Chelsea. I think were playing their game at a later time. So once they won, they went back to fourth. But yeah, so I think that was probably a more interesting game. And another interesting development that weekend was Leicester winning 3-0 against Crystal Palace. I think they needed to because, like I said, the third place is also not guaranteed. And then for the longest time, Leicester thought they would probably be guaranteed a Champions League spot because they had done really well at the start of the season. But that's starting to slip away, so they need to make sure that they hold on to that. On comes Sunday, and Liverpool playing against Villa at home. I think everybody wanted a strong reaction from them. We ended up winning 2-0 with Curtis Jones scoring his first Premier League goal. I really like that player. I think Jones is one for the future. I think Klopp is working out a way to make sure that he keeps him in that starting 11 or close to that starting 11 or the first team squad, because he looks really good. And also what's his name, the right back that we have, now I'm forgetting it. We have a couple of really exciting youngsters. So one of them being obviously Curtis Jones, and the other is Nico Williams. There you go. Nico Williams on the right looks fantastic. He looks primed to be like a good understudy for Trent's. It's very easy to forget that he's only 21. So for us to have an 18-year-old, I think Nico, or 19-year-old Nico Williams, to play an understudy to a 21-year-old Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is already have like 100 games under his belt for Liverpool, and a bunch of goals to add to that, and assists obviously, is pretty good. And I think I'll speak to our squad and our depth when I do the end of season assessment of Liverpool and our squad and what's upcoming for us in terms of next season, and obviously the transfers that need to happen for us to make sure that we maintain our spot at the top of the pile. One of the things that I really want to talk about is the left back and the full back positions. So with Nico Williams, I think he looked really good, has looked really good, particularly in this game, but also the one against West Ham, in which we won 4-0 at home. So yeah, I mean, Liverpool winning that comfortably. There were a few, oohs and ahs. I think Aston Villa were pretty dangerous on the break. Jack Grealish had a few opportunities. He was making things happen, but it was a classic Liverpool this season performance, because they weren't the best, at least far from it. But we found a way to win convincingly and make sure that we get a clean sheet as well. So Liverpool winning 2-0 at home. That would have probably, so Man City was playing again against Southampton away, and after a thrashing that they gave us a couple of days back, I was thinking that was going to be a sure fit, but that's the reason why Man City are now 23 points behind Liverpool. All of that for nothing, because they lost away to Southampton, and it was a shocking defeat for them, and it kind of shows you that this is why Liverpool's achievement is very, very good, because any team can beat anyone in this league. So for Liverpool to just lose to away to Man City and away to Wolves all season is a test, is an achievement in itself. So again, shocking result, and that kind of gives brings Man City back down to earth, which they were flying pretty high after beating Liverpool, and why wouldn't you be, right? Because it was a huge statement for them to make. But I think they need more statements like these it kind of puts things into perspective too, because they were thinking that now they're the best team in England, which clearly they're not. West Ham drawing against Newcastle. That's kind of interesting because they needed that point. So away to Newcastle is a very tough game. Any week of the day, any day of the week. Sorry, and for them to get that point away was pretty cool. Nothing else apart from that, and then also the game today, which was Monday, which saw Spurs winning at home, which was interesting. Not much to see in that game. It was a classic Spurs, digging through that performance. Jose Mourinho wouldn't care. He just needs the 3 points at this point. I think that's fair. And I'll do another episode on this myth of Mourinho. I read a book on him. I've been following him very closely for a while now, ever since he made his way to England in 2004. I think, 2004, with Chelsea, and there's been a lot of, hate that has been thrown his way, and a lot of it I feel is just not justifiable, but that's for another day. But yeah, for him to win at home to Everton, they've been looking pretty good with ever since Carlo came back, was appointed. This is a legendary manager in Ancelotti, and for him to be doing well, it's good to see him do well at Everton. Although being a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't really want to see that, but I think as long as they're doing their own thing in the mid-table and not really interfering with us, I couldn't care less. So, how does that really impacts the table so far? Well, like I said, at the top of the table, Liverpool, although they lost that game against Man City, and their points difference went from 23 to 20, and they recovered that in a matter of days when Man City lost again away to Southampton. So that's pretty much locked down. Liverpool are champions, and we play, I think, Brighton away next, and Man City are playing Newcastle. Leicester and Arsenal, that seems like a pretty decent game, because it's both of these teams, they need to win. Chelsea are playing Crystal Palace, again a very potential banana skin game. Man United are playing against Aston Villa next. That should be an easy win for them. They've been really, really good. I think probably the best team so far ever since the league started. Then you have the likes of Wolves, who play Sheffield United next. That's a potential 6-pointer right there. I think the gap between Chelsea on 4th and Man United is 2 on 5th, and then 5 points away from Wolves at 6th, and 7 points from Arsenal, and 8 points from actually 9 points, and 8 points from Arsenal, and 9 points from Spurs. So like I said, I think it's just Wolves, Man United, and Chelsea kind of vying for that top 4 spot. I think Leicester might get pulled into it too, but I don't see them really dropping from 3rd to like 5th or anything like that. So I think they should probably stick to where they are. As far as the relegation battles is concerned, I think it's still the same. It's insane that we've had a few games and it's still the same, with only West Ham now creating some sort of a daylight between them and 17, which is 4 points now. That's those 3 points against Chelsea, and that draw against Newcastle was gold dust for them. Bournemouth and Aston Villa, they're still locked on 27th, and I feel like Norwich been on a losing streak. They are pretty much done and dusted. Watford on 17th, they still might be pulled into it. I really, really wish Bournemouth should, they stay. Villa, I have no feelings about them, but I would rather see West Ham go down as opposed to Bournemouth. Bournemouth play Spurs at home next, which you never know. Spurs could either drop points there or beat them, but you never know with Spurs these days. Villa play United, that's definitely not Not looking like they're gonna get any points from that game. Yeah, so it's still pretty much how it was last week. With the championship decided, I think top four race and the race for avoiding relegation is, where all the action is at these days. So yeah, that's it for this week's Premier League update. I know when this episode will go out, there may have been a few more games, but I think the positions will probably stay close to where they are, or pretty much exactly where they are right now. So yeah, hope you guys are enjoying this little commentary of mine every week, and I'll see you guys again next week. Thanks, bye.
And that's it for our show. The content on our episode is a collective effort by the resident drunk groomers, that is myself, Zaib, Sahir, Farouk, Zan, and Naveed. Our theme music is courtesy Taimur Salahuddin, aka Muru, a highly rated and extremely talented Pakistani singer-songwriter and YouTuber. To check his work, please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Google, and Apple Podcast. You can also leave comments and connect with us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/drunkgroomers. Until next time, take care.